This podcast is a TOFOP production.
Head to tofop.com for more.
The following episode of TOFOP is rated MA for mature audiences. It may contain sexual references, time travel references, allegations of bin misconduct, and mild coarse language. TOFOP advises that this episode is not suitable for anyone under the age of 15 or anyone who thinks a comedy conversation between two old mates sounds like a terrible idea for a show. Minors must be accompanied by a parent or guardian. This is John Deek speaking.
Everyone relax. This is TOFOP. I'm Charlie Clausen.
I'm Will Anderson. Hello and thank you for watching.
Will, one of the most compelling storylines in the TOFOPiverse over the past couple of years was the debate around whether or not I stole a dog or I liberated a dog.
Okay, cool.
For those who have missed the story, about a year ago, I had some new neighbours move in. Hadn't met them yet. Jim and I came back to our house after being away for a couple of days. And
Sorry, we should do this officially. Previously on TOFOP.
we heard a dog barking, and I went round, saw the dog. It was on its own in the backyard. All the lights are out. Owners were clearly not home. Got the number off the dog's collar, texted the owner to say, hey, man, kind of a passive-aggressive text. Hey, man, your dog's barking. My daughter can't sleep. When are you going to be home? Didn't hear anything back. Dog's still barking. About an hour later, I go around. I'm like, oh, this poor thing seems a bit scared. So I jumped the fence of the neighbors that I haven't met before, grabbed their dog, jumped back over the fence, took him into our house, got him comfortable.
Important lesson to learn, by the way. You know, sometimes when you're angry at somebody, you've just got to walk a mile in their paws. You've got to get inside the head of the dog and empathize with the dog and say, you know what? Maybe the reason this dog is being so loud and so annoying is the dog is just scared. And if I just extend my hand to their paw, then I can, make a little connection.
What's that in Planet of the Apes? There's like a slogan that the monkeys bind around. It's something like, no paw make a fist or something like that. Podcast Mike, can you look up what in the Planet of the Apes Caesar's motto is? Like, there's some monkey kind
I
of...
was about to say that it was two legs bad, four legs good, but that's Animal Farm.
It's something like that. It's like, opposable thumb.
Monkey see, monkey do.
Yeah, monkey.
Get out of this. This is monkey business.
Stop monkeying around.
None of your monkey business.
So I took the dog back to our place, stayed overnight. The neighbors arrived back the next day, completely oblivious. Their phones had been off. They didn't get my messages. And look, everything was fine after that with the neighbors. Became very friendly with them. But the debate raged on TOFOP amongst our comments.
Did Charlie steal a dog?
Did Charlie steal a dog or did Charlie liberate a dog? It seems to be, if you fall in the category of believing in personal property and space and fences and borders, that I was a thief. If you're a dog lover, I had a lot of dog lovers going, I would have done the same thing. A lot of people requesting photos of said dog.
A lot of fellow thieves. That's what I'm hearing. A lot of other people who are just looking for an excuse to steal a dog.
Look, I think if I had gone into their house, sure, that's crossed a line. But there is literally a hedge fence separating our two properties. Not even a real fence, like vegetation, a miniature forest. I could have walked through our miniature forest to get this dog. I just jumped the fence because that was the closest access to the dog.
I mean, we may have mentioned this last time, but did you consider Homer Simpson style just backing through the hedge?
Like a T-1000, just like morphing into the edge. I did.
You just go, you know what? I'm just doing a meme, guys. This isn't a crime. This is a meme.
I did consider that when I went around the next morning to return the dog. And the owner started reading my passive-aggressive text messages sent at 10 p.m. the night before. Then I was like, oh, shit, this is embarrassing. I need to disappear.
The one that you sent at 2 o'clock in the morning that says, I will only return your dog in exchange for $1 million.
So, in the subsequent year, became...
Got a pretty nice dog here. You just send back a little clipping of its
clipping of its hair.
Be a real pity.
And the guy's like, thank God. Clipping a dog's claws is a nightmare.
Yeah.
You've done
really
it a
hard.
huge
How
favor.
did you do it? How did you actually get him to sit down for the clipping?
And
Did you? Yeah. Well, you know what? Here's some of his anal glands I expressed as well. What do you think of that?
I express his anal glands to make my coffee. What? What are you doing?
Who
I
is
don't
this
know.
guy?
I'll be honest. I lost this thread a long time ago. I don't even know if I'm on the side of
I'm
good
in
or
the
bad
woods.
anymore.
I'm deep in the madness.
Uh, the point being, became good friends with the neighbours. The dog came to stay of its own free will many times when they went away.
Stockholm syndrome.
But they've moved out recently. So about
Oh.
just before the floods, actually, they moved out. Funny, actually, because they moved into an area not far from Lismore. And so when after the floods had happened, I knew that they'd just bought this new place. And so I texted the guy to say, hey, man, like, are you okay? Do you need help? And he wrote back a rather kind of like, it was confusing. He's like, oh, no, man, I'm all good. Thanks a lot. If I do need help, I'll hit you up. Maybe we can have a couple of beers. And I'm like, what? Like, are you aware that like half of the Northern Rivers is underwater? And then I spoke to him, and it turns out no, like the place that he was completely oblivious. The place they bought is on a hill, and because it was a new house, he'd just been painting for 2 days with headphones on and had completely missed the natural disaster that was unfolding around him. So when I texted him, he thought I was offering to help him, as in, hey, do you want me to come around and pick up a paintbrush?
Do some painting.
Yeah.
Exactly. I'll bring my own headphones.
Yeah.
We don't even have to chat.
Yeah.
We certainly won't get any local news. Why am I wet when I arrived at the door? Don't need to worry about
Why
it.
did I
mate. It's
arrive
okay.
in a
You
dinghy?
live on a hill.
Yeah, it's like kayak to your front door.
Why did I get delivered here by Mick Fanning on the back of a jet ski? Don't get into it, mate. It's fine.
So they've moved into this new place, and we decided to catch up. It's been a while since we've seen them, and so we thought we'll get babysitter. They've got 2 young kids, around about the same age as Iona. We'll get a babysitter. We'll go for a nice fancy lunch at a nice fancy place, and have a fancy grown-ups lunch, which we did yesterday, and it was fantastic. Now, in the back of my mind has always been this, not concern, but
Now,
aware.
hang on. Where was the dog? Was the babysitter looking after the dog as well?
Yes,
Was the babysitter and dog sitter?
Yes.
Yeah.
That's how it generally works. Because we are also minding a dog, coincidentally, at the moment for friends who are away, and we had a babysitter, so her job
Now,
was twofold.
the big question, though, Charlie, is do those friends know that you've got their dog? Or have you just gone over knowing they're away and stolen their dog?
Funnily enough, no, I had permission this time, but I did have to go around to their place and get it because they were in Sydney and they realised they weren't going to be able to make it back. So I did have to go around to their
Who
place.
do we know
I'm an
who's willing to
expert.
break into somebody's house and get a dog? You're like the George Clooney of stealing dogs. You have
Oceans.
you're the Liam Neeson. You have a
Right.
particular set of skills.
If you need a dog kidnapped. Oh, you know what it is? It's more than Liam Neeson. It's like that Chris Hemsworth film, Extraction. You know how they send Chris Hemsworth into the most dangerous parts of the world to extract. That's me. If you've got a dog that's in
That needs to be liberated.
not a particularly dangerous situation, just a shut gate or something.
And
I'm
it's
your
barking
man.
a lot.
Yeah,
I'm your dude.
not even
And
in
if it's
danger.
near where I live, hopefully.
So always in the back of my mind has been this awareness that, we got a fair bit of mileage out of these neighbors, like quite a few episodes worth of content. And I don't think they've ever really been aware of what I do. I think they're aware that, Jim and I both work in the arts and stuff and that I've done some acting and things like that. But as far as I knew, they don't know anything about this dirty little secret. They've been around and stuff, but they've never asked questions about, the wall behind me or why there's microphones and a camera in my office or anything like that. So
I love that you consider your career a dirty little secret, by the way. It explains a lot about how a business is going.
So anyway, we were at lunch and I can't remember how the subject came up, but one of them was sort of saying,
Probably like this, I imagine, Charlie. You were like, hey, have you guys ever heard of the boy band 5? Because I have a lot of thoughts.
Just a little diversion, just something I received before we started recording. So this is from a listener who sent me a link, Teleporting Cat on Twitter. She said that you might be interested in this, Charlie, if you're taking Iona back to Scotland anytime soon. So this is from the dailyrecord.co.uk, which is just like a local tabloid. The headline, Boy Band Superstars 5 set to play Ayrshire Bingo Hall as part of a 90s throwback show.
Oh, no. Down at the bingo hall.
90s Superstar Boy Band 5 is set to play their next gig in Irvine's Bingo Hall. The Everybody Get Up Singers will be the headline act as Irvine's Buzz Bingo, based in Townhead, gets set to relaunch.
I mean, I would hope that in the time leading up to the 5 gig, every time they do bingo at that bingo hall, like, you know how
gotta-
it's like legs 11
Yeah,
or
yeah.
like, 88 Two Fat Ladies. You probably can't say that anymore. But I hope when they say 5,
Everybody
everyone
get up. Yeah.
everybody get up. Yeah. And so when anyone has a 5, everybody has to get up, stretch their old legs. Good to get the circulation going.
Well, what I love about whoever had to write the copy for this little
Mm.
press release, there's like the directive was, can you cram in as many hits as you can into this like
Yeah,
5-paragraph
great.
brief? So it's the Everybody Get Up Singers will be the headline act as Irvine's Buzz Bingo, based in Townhead, gets set to relaunch. So they are like, Buzz Bingo has obviously been closed down for a refurb, and they're like, we need to relaunch with a bang.
Buzz at Bingo is back, and we need 3 of the original members of 5 to come and help us launch this thing.
The next sentence: 3 of the original members of 5 will rock you, in inverted commas.
Oh, yeah, nice.
When they played the gig on Saturday, June 18. Fans will get the chance to win thousands of pounds up for grabs during 15 bingo games before 5 play their best known hits like Slam Dunk the Funk
Oh, yeah.
and Let's Dance. And then the last paragraph is, just in case you weren't aware, the boy band superstars who rocked the UK charts from 97 will be supported by a DJ on the night who will be playing all the bangers from the 90s.
Can I ask this?
Can I ask this? So
Okay.
the main act is 3 of the 5 members of 5.
3 out of 5.
Singing-
Our favorite boy band, 3 out of 5.
singing to a
3/5.
singing to a backing track. All the video evidence I've seen is it's the 3 of them on stage singing to a backing track.
I gotta be honest with you, I never imagined they were touring with the live band.
Well, this is my question. But they're being supported by a DJ who's going to play like the 90s hits. I imagine it's pretty much the DJ show, and at some point, 3 of the 3 members of 5 get up and sing over, a handful of songs from that 90s bangers list.
I mean, I assume that 5 aren't going to Milli Vanilli it though.
No.
Like, I assume that 5 is still going to come out and do live vocals over a backing
my point
track.
being, though, like, the bulk of the work has been done by the person who is playing the 90s tracks. And at some point, like, if you just say you're playing like every top 10 song from 1997 to 2000, right?
Mhm.
And you're the DJ entrusted with doing that, and there's 30 songs, and 5 of them are by 5. Of course, it's 5 songs. So you're doing the bulk of the work. You're just playing. But at some point, 3 members of 5 get up and sing over 5 of those tracks and then get back down again. But it's still really, you could argue it's the DJ show.
Well, no, because the DJ's playing first and then 5 come on and they play. Now, what you are saying would make sense if the DJ was just doing like the
A chronological-
last 3 years of the 90s mega mix, right? And every now and again he would drop in a song by the boy band 5. And when he did, the boy band 5, 3 of the original members of the boy band 5 would come out and do it over the top. Now, that's a show I would like to see, by the way, because that'd be great because you'd never know when he was going to drop in the 5. So this is the thing. Like,
They've got to be on their
somehow-
toes as well.
Right.
Yeah.
At the side of the stage at all times. And occasionally he does that thing DJs do where they play like an opening riff of it
Yeah.
and then go into something else. And you like one of the guys is already out on stage
Yeah.
and you're like, nah.
It's
not
like
yet.
musical chairs. You get eliminated. Like, and see, maybe you'll get down to the 1 member of 5. It's like,
Yeah, we're going to find out who the actual
there can be only 1 member of 5 in brackets.
1/5.
Could you still tour? Like, just say the other 2. Just say like Richie quit and Scott quit. So it's just Sean.
Yeah.
Could he still tour as 5?
As 5.
1/5.
1/5. Just doing the songs of 5 all by himself.
Well, John Stevens still tours as Noiseworks, even though I'm pretty sure he's not playing with any of the original members of Noiseworks.
But doesn't John Stevens kind of tour as if he's John Stevens and then just play some Noiseworks songs and some John Stevens songs?
Yeah, I guess he's not billing himself as Noiseworks. It's John Stevens of
Sean's got to
Noiseworks.
have one other solo hit.
Right.
Sean's got to have something that he's done solo. He's got to like release an acoustic song or something, and then it hits the charts. So then you've got a night where Sean plays his acoustic song, but he also does the five top five.
Oh.
Like, it is good that Five, in some ways, only had 5 good songs.
There's
I feel like that is really exactly what Five should have been.
There's a horrible video online. Well, I don't know if it's horrible. I found it horrible. Maybe Sean's cool with it. But in 2011, Sean auditioned for the UK X Factor, the blind auditions. And so he came out and sang a song, like an acoustic song, played on the piano.
Okay.
And none of the judges turned around.
Oh.
And then when the judges did turn around, one of the judges, she was like, "Oh, I recognize you. You from the boy band Five, right? Oh my God. Like, so yours was the first concert I ever went into in 1990. Anyway, thanks for you singing. You're not coming on the show. Goodbye."
Yeah. One follow-up question.
Yeah.
Is Jay okay?
Yeah.
Do you know where Jay is? I have a question about
Yeah.
the song. Again, we've got distracted by the boy band Five, but I have a question about the song Slam Dunk the Funk.
Mm-hmm.
So what was, like, most of the other songs, I get what the sort of lyrical content was meant to be, but is this them saying that they have so much funk when they come to the party, they are not just going to like shoot the funk. They're not going to shoot a 3-pointer of the funk or like post up like at the free throw line and like, do an alley-oop of the funk. They are there to slam dunk the funk.
To be honest, Slam Dunk the Funk is the track I've probably listened to the least. It was one of their earliest singles trying to nail that American market because, they're 5 British guys, like basketball and, youth culture in Britain don't really go hand in hand.
Oh, so do you think this is like, this is down at the 5 offices? The
Yes.
people who are in charge of the
Simon
boy band
Cowell,
5 are just like,
they'll deliver.
hey,
Yeah. Like then if
we've
you see
got to take you into America.
Yeah.
Like, what's a really American thing? And they're like, basketball?
It's the
What's a
mid-90s.
basketball term? I don't know. Foul? Can we
Yeah.
foul the toilets? No, that's not it. Let's try some other ones. Dribble. I dribble down my top. Okay. None of these are bad ideas, but I don't think we've
I've got some lyrics here. I like my sex like my basketball, 1-on-1 with as little dribbling as possible. No, well, let's just do a second draft on this one. Okay, so Slam Dunk, and we've talked about this before. My favorite pop song is the one that uses parentheses. So it's like, this is the name of the song, but just in case. I'll do anything for love in brackets, but I won't do that. So Slam Dunk, parentheses, da funk. And it's not
so
da
it
funk.
it is Da Funk.
Da Funk, yeah.
Okay.
Like Daft Punk, but Da Funk.
Yeah.
Okay.
Is there any chance that they wanted to slam dunk Daft Punk?
Well, Daft Punk even a
Like
thing
their heads kind of look like basketballs anyway. We want to slam dunk Daft Punk.
It's actually very long, so let's just race through this. Okay. We're 5 bad boys with the power to rock you, blowing your mind, so you've got to get into 5, what you're waiting for. If you want to go 3, 2, 1, let's do it. That's the little intro.
Okay, I know that we don't want to get bogged down forever in this, but do you think when 5 perform Slam Dunk the Funk now, they start by saying there's 5 of them, or have they adjusted the lyrics to the fact that there's 3 of them?
Well, from what I've seen, the 3 members of 5, because they have, I think pretty much every song they refer to themselves as being 5 people or we're 5, and they don't change the lyrics. I think there's like a roll call in one of the songs. They name check each of the members, and they keep that in as well. Okay, do you want to get freaky? When the 5 of us make one, you got to push the good vibes on. If you really want to feel it, got the flavor in my soul, but I really need to know, do you want to get down? Do you want to get funky? Do you want to get down? Slam dunk the funk, put it up. Slam dunk the funk, put it up. Slam dunk the funk, put it up, put it up. Okay, here's some basketball vernacular. So I'm assuming there's a double meaning. This is either about sex or something. You got to shoot, pass, slam, baby. Time to set it off. Does that sound like sex to you? Got to shoot, pass, slam, baby?
I mean, shoot? Yeah, sure. I can understand that.
I'll
What
be
would
up
pass
and
be?
away and above the rim. It's sounding
rimming?
pretty...
Okay, rimming.
Yeah.
That's pretty early reference to rimming in popular culture. I mean, this was the wet ass pussy of the time.
It's true. So you got to shoot, pass, slam, baby to set it off. I'll be up, away, above the rim and hook your shot. Alley-oop, baby. Whoop, whoop. There it is. And now I got you. 3 seconds left. It's enough time for me to rock you.
Okay. They have literally just got like a whole bunch of basketball terms.
I'm at the top of your key shooting a 3.
I'm in the paint and you ain't. I'm going to make you faint.
But it's also like the idea of some sweaty dude on top of you just like yelling all this stuff out. Yeah, 3 seconds left. It's just enough time to rock you.
Just give us 3 seconds and I'll rock your world. I don't think that's how it works, mate.
No, I want more than that. Now check it, how I flip the rock beat, cause I get it with everybody and I want to be the man with a hey, yippee, yo, yippee, yay, 4/4 slam. Everybody grab a party and just get down. Do you want to get funky? Put the slam down, funk. Okay, here we go. There's some name checking here.
Okay.
You want to know what hits you like a forklift truck?
Okay.
Interesting. We've taken
Where did that come from?
Different metaphor there. Whatever. They just ran out of basketball analogies. The guy who wrote this song was just looking around the factory where he worked his day job. It's like packing boxes. I don't like foxes. Hunting's for losers. We're just a bunch of boozers. Okay. You want to know what hits you like a forklift truck? We got J, Ab. Well, he says J-A-B, which is weird because he's known as Abs. J-A-B, Rich, Sean, and Scott rocking extra hard. Curricular ladies love a particular fella. What? Curricular ladies love particular fella who knocked a meter, get the boom shake regular.
I mean,
What does that mean?
Now.
What does curricular, like in isolation, mean? Curricular? Like, I know what extracurricular means, but what's the definition of curricular?
I guess part of the curriculum, the prescribed text for learning.
Curricular ladies love particular fella.
Yeah. I mean, again,
is the fella your
doesn't have a lot
penis?
to do with basketball either.
Like the old fella? Curricular ladies love a particular fella who knock...
Okay, is he suggesting that he's hanging out at a lot of schools? Because this is a crime. That's what he's saying.
Curricular ladies love a particular fella who knocked a meter, get the boom shake regular. 5 bad boys, honey, no. We don't quit till we hit. The rebound sound with a kick. I think whoever wrote this has never seen a game of basketball.
No, definitely he thinks there's forklifts involved in maybe he went to see the Harlem Globetrotters. And in the second half they start hang on.
Yeah, bring a fork
This
truck.
guy's doing a slam dunk on a forklift truck. And this guy's just riding it all down going, this is great for the boys.
The rebound sound with a kick. So come on, everybody in tune. As I boom shake a rockin' booty. Give me room, clap your hands, move your feet, push it in, pull it out to the beat. Oh, that sounds gross. Clap your hands, move your feet, push it in, pull it out to the beat.
Oh.
Push it in and pull it out.
Pull it out. Would you like if I pushed it in and pulled it out a little?
That's some pretty hot pillow talk.
All I need is 3 seconds and I will rock you.
Like a forklift truck. You need a license to ride me. Okay. Where were we? All right. So I was out to lunch with my neighbors and I'm pretty sure they don't really know what I do. Well, they have vague ideas. Turns out they do know what I'm doing because I don't know how we got onto it, but he's like, oh yeah. And so you do that podcast with that comedian, Will Anderson. I'm like, yeah. And he said, oh, I've been listening to it. And I was like, oh, fuck. And he's like, yeah. A mate of mine is a huge fan. The Two Guys Cup one, and I'm like, oh yeah, the footy podcast, yeah. And he's going, I hate AFL, but I really like it. It's really funny, which I think is as good an advertisement for Two Guys One Cup as anything. It's like, you don't like football? We've got the footy podcast just for you.
And I got to be honest with you, from week to week, Charlie and I don't like football either.
Yeah.
So it just depends on which week you get us. This week, we both like football. So there might be a little bit more football chat in the podcast this week.
But then I was like, oh, I don't know. So it surprises me that he would have listened to that one and that one only and not sort of been curious to check out the other one. So then I was not sure if he had actually heard it because it's the first time it's ever come up before. And he seemed to know a bit about the shows, like not just, it wasn't like a vague, like he's aware of TOFOP.com and the other shows because he's asking about philosophy as well. And it's like, oh, is that part of Will's stand-up? And I said, no, like it has a pun in the title, but it's not stand-up. He interviews guests, blah, blah, blah. But then he said, I went and saw Will do some stand-up like 20 years ago when I was 20 years old.
Oh, yeah.
At the Paddington Bolo. And I was like, oh yeah. And he said, yeah. He's gone, I was 20 at the time. And my girlfriend was 18. She's still in high school. And he said that we were sitting at this table near the stage, and Will was doing his stand-up. And at one stage, my girlfriend got up to go to the bathroom, and that caught Will's eye. And so he turned to me and he said something along the lines of like, who are you with? Is that your girlfriend? What, did you just pick her up from school? And I said, yeah. And he had no comeback. The whole room just sort of stopped for about like 20 seconds.
Like,
And
this is meant to be fun, not like me discovering a crime.
But he said that like there was this kind of like awkward laughter around the room, and you kind of moved on pretty quick because you're like, oh, I don't know what to do with that.
Yeah.
And then he was then trying to
Because that's only a fun riff when it's not true.
Yeah. But then he was trying to explain that but I'm only 20 myself. I only finished like high school 2 years ago myself. But he said by that stage the crowd had gone.
To report you to Crime Stoppers. Anyway, this is not the same woman that he is now married to?
No.
Okay.
I assume this is a different.
I mean, that would be an amazing story if that was the case.
That you were there for the moment that they.
So there is a chance that he's only listened to Two Guys One Cup because it is now, Charlie, exclusive to the Listener app.
Oh,
maybe he's only over in Listener land and he hasn't come over to this part of the internet.
He was the opposite of it seems like every follower of ours because he loves Listener.
Yeah, he's I don't want to listen to anything that's outside the Listener
Pretty
world.
much. Like Hamish and Andy and Howie Games. And he started listing all these podcasts and he's gone, oh yeah, Listener's my app. He's gone, I think it's like, it's one. And this is not like a
Abby Chatfield. Yeah. Like literally all the biggest podcasts going around are on Listener and us.
And he was like, so that's good. So you're getting paid to do it now? And I said, yeah. And he said, how's that been? I'm like, rough. You would have, like, it seems to be okay now. I think people have accepted it. But at the beginning, it was rough. Not a lot of people. And he's like, really? I love Listener. That's where I get all my podcasts. I was like, well, can you have a word to like about 4,000 people who sent me like messages over the last couple of months?
That'd be really great. Thank you. That's the problem. You go over to Listener and you never want to come back to the rest of the world. You're just like, I like it here. Didn't realize this was how the other half were living. Well, Listen to all these professionally produced podcasts.
I think for him, it was he was also talking as if podcasts were invented 2 years ago. Like because he was running through all the podcasts he likes to listen to as if like, oh, and that, so-and-so does a podcast and there's one called like the Joe Rogan podcast. I'm like, yeah, mate, just stay away from that one. Right? Just wait till he has like good guests. Listen to the one with the good guests, but don't listen to the one where he has like some fucking right-wing psychopath on.
Alex Jones, this will be really interesting. No. But that is what podcasting is now, right? Like we're very old-fashioned. Like the world of podcasting, and we knew this was always coming at some point. In fact, in Graham Elwood's documentary they made about podcasting, a decade ago, Earbuds. Literally in that documentary, I talk about at some stage the big commercial companies will come in and fuck it up for all of us, and we might as well enjoy it while it's the Wild West that it is. And that is eventually what has happened. It hasn't necessarily fucked it up for everybody, but you've definitely seen there is now I remember I haven't had to explain to people what a podcast is for so long. In fact, I can't remember the last time I mentioned that I had a podcast and there was anyone who was like, what's a podcast? But the first 8 years of us doing this, the majority of the questions you got about the podcast was, where do I find out? Does it go out live?
Yeah.
Do you have to hand me a cassette tape? Do I have to buy a new computer to listen to it?
I do think, though, that for some people, not our audience, but people who are new to podcasting, there is this kind of misunderstanding about, I think that they see Rogan gets 200 million for Spotify and they assume there's heaps of money in podcasting. And I sort of explain, no, it's much like the arts in Australia in any field. The top guys get paid real well. And then there's a huge gap. And then there's the rest of people just scrapping around from Patreon and stuff, which, by the way, our Patreon numbers have been growing this year and it's so great. And thank you to everyone. I know that we are getting a listener paycheck now and that is helping, but we still do need the Patreon money. I'm getting ready to send out all our top tier prizes, the signed posters. And there's been a lot we've had. I'm just looking at the sheets now. There's probably been 20 people have signed up at our top tier in the last 2 months, which has been great. That's awesome.
That's amazing. It is so helpful to us, particularly making this style of niche entertainment that we do.
But one of the people who signed up, and I wanted to get your advice on this because I don't know, is Adam Spencer. And,
Mhm.
you know, Adam's a big fan of our podcast. He listens
Yes.
to TOFOP and definitely listens to Two Guys, One Cup, has been on Two Guys, One Cup numerous times. But Adam has signed up at the top level, the top tier,
Mhm.
where he automatically qualifies for an autographed poster.
Does he want to post that?
Does he want to post it? Now, should we give him a call? Like, do you want to call him now and just ask him if he wants a poster?
Yeah, sure. Let's give it a
All
go.
right.
Yeah, why not? Let's give him a call.
Let me
Let's
just
see what's going on.
see what's going on. Because I didn't want to make it awkward for him. All right, so okay, it's ringing now.
Yes, winner.
Spence, it's Charlie and Will here. We've got you live on a TOFOP. I hope that's okay.
Player. Yes, bring it on.
Just had a quick question for you, mate. I've just been going through the Patreon and putting together the top tier rewards for everyone who signed up at the top level. And I noticed that you are supporting TOFOP at the top level, which is fantastic. We really do appreciate all your support. But my question is, do you want an autographed poster from Will and I?
Look, it'd feel a little bit stalkerish.
Mhm.
So I'm quite happy for you to sign that. And why don't you fake my signature on it as well and give it away to the next person who comes in at the very generous top level of membership that I've supported.
So you want me to forge your signature? Is it hard to do, Adam Spencer?
No, I think I could. I've seen Spencer's signature enough over the years that I think I could forge Adam's signature on a poster.
That's the single part where I started to feel a little bit uncomfortable with this conversation. But yeah, knock yourself out.
Well, part of me did wonder, Spence, if it was an accident, because I do see that sometimes when going through the Patreon that someone has signed up at the top tier and then immediately there's another notification that they've lowered it below the top tier, that they've actually clicked the wrong thing. And I don't, I'm like, okay, I understand. We're not going to charge you for that one mistake. So I just wanted to confirm you did intend to support us at the highest level.
No, the situation I hopped on and supported you guys a while ago at some level, just as it's the thing you should do. And I recently had to cancel a credit card because I'd lost it and it went through and I'm getting all these notifications for things. And then I heard you guys plug in the Patreon. I thought, I wonder if I'm even still on. So I hopped in to check and you've got those beautiful tiers of membership. And I do like cheese. For anyone who hasn't gone on Patreon, there's a big cheese theme running for the different levels you can sponsor at. And then I suddenly had this sort of crisis of, like, if I never sponsored, you probably wouldn't notice and you wouldn't judge me for it. But if I chip in at $5 a year, then there's part of you thinking, really, Spence, that's all you feel we're worth? For $8, you could have got a sticker. And then I just progressively guilted myself. And the last one's from the difference between $20 and $27. And I thought, oh, for fuck, okay, all in.
Well, that is incredibly generous of you, Adam. I appreciate that very much.
You just heard a whistle in the background. It's Narrabeen girls under 12s versus French's Forest, currently locked at 0-0.
Good.
Are you in there in an official capacity? Are you umpiring, goal umpiring, running the boundary?
I'm watching my stepdaughter play soccer football. I did go the very first game of the season. I had to step in and coach them because the coach had COVID. We won 4-0, playing a 4-4-2 with a floating deep fake number 10 forward. And I immediately announced my retirement from all levels of the game, having achieved everything I could possibly hope for.
Hey, Spence, just before we let you go, just a quick question. Maybe you've been following our obsession with the 90s boy band 5, of which there are now only 3 members. Like, if we were to break that down into kind of like different mathematical equations, like the 3/5 of a band, like what would be the variations if they wanted to rename themselves now that they're only 3/5?
Oh, right. If they wanted to, okay, so they're going for 60%, aren't they? Well, 60 in Roman numerals is LX, and that's got a nice feel to it.
I like 60%. I think running at 60% is pretty good too.
Yeah, LX/C is 50 over 100 in Roman numerals, and that's looking pretty good.
Oh, that's awesome. All right, we're hoping to speak to them when they come out to Australia. We won't hold you up anymore, so good luck. We hope your stepdaughter kicks the winning goal. And thank you for your support, Spence. We do appreciate it.
No trouble, little boys. Keep up the fantastic work and the dodgy stuff.
See you, mate.
Look at that. The Ange Postecoglou of Australian underage girls soccer. Adam Spencer on the sidelines, giving it up for us, which is very generous. I like that, though, because I've got to say, I thought you were going to ask me whether it was appropriate for Adam, who had been on these podcasts, to support the podcast. Like, I support heaps of podcasts that I've been on. Like, like Josh Earl's podcast, Little Dum Dum
Yeah.
Club, things like that I listen to regularly. I am a Patreon subscriber of, because much like Adam, I believe that it's funny that we are so generous in signing up to streaming services for these billion-dollar companies, and we're like, well, we should pay for this entertainment. But when it comes to these people who are making
Low
something that we
level.
love every week and are surviving on the smell of an oily rag, then
Well, I had an interesting chat with Broden Kelly last week.
speaking of people who are struggling, a Melbourne supporter who's a member
Oh,
of
yeah.
Auntie Donna, must be tough times to be
Yeah.
Broden at the moment.
Well, I know you've talked about this because when you had him on Philosophy, and like they have this kind of attitude towards their output that they want to be unkillable. So it's like they've got the TV show, but because he was saying that like they're exhausted because they're writing their new show, they've been doing this stand-up tour, but they've also been banking like a year's worth of podcast episodes. So they get together like on a Monday and they'll record a week's worth of episodes, 5 episodes, so that at the end of the year that they won't have missed a week. And it's like, and I was saying to him, like, it's incredible, like your work ethic. You've achieved a fair level of success. Surely you can take a break. And he's like, no. We're just always aware that like it could end. Well, he told me, I don't know if he told the story in Philosophy about when they were first coming up on YouTube, and there was a bunch of Aussie YouTubers who were doing really well, who had like cooking shows and comedy shows and all that kind of stuff. And then after that Logan Paul suicide forest incident and all these sponsors pulled their money out of YouTube, he said they saw a collapse of like the YouTube economy, and all these YouTubers suddenly just have no income, and they're like, that can't be us. Like we need to have like other revenue streams. But he was saying that Spotify have changed their attitude in terms of podcasters. So a couple of years ago, the Spotify attitude was checkbook. Like we're just going to go out, go to Obama, go to Conan or whoever and just say, here's $1 million. Can you do us a famous person podcast? And that didn't work, which is interesting because, you and I have always believed that like it's a more organic podcast. You can't just sort of come in and treat it like radio and just get a big name. Like there has to be an organic building of an audience. So now Spotify have changed their attitude and they're doing more of a Marvel approach where, Marvel, they will just cherry pick like a director for some indie movie's done really well. And so they'll take that director and then they'll put him in front of a franchise, but they can boss him around. So they're going to podcasters who have a good audience or potential for an audience and making them sign a big contract, but owning all that content. And I'm like, capitalism's evil.
I thought you said when you were saying they were going to go the Marvel route was they were going to have an interconnected universe of Spotify podcasts, so that Joe
That's a good
Rogan would
idea.
end up rocking up on My Mum Wrote a Porno or M. Rusciano's show or whatever else might be on Spotify exclusively.
Well, it's confusing with the platform thing because I know that we are on a bunch of podcast platforms. Like we're on Spotify and stuff, but we have no exclusive deal with that. Like I think we're just there. And I see like our podcast popping up in all these like I don't know what they're called, like podcast catches or compilate or whatever. It's like TOFOP on aggregators. Yeah. And it's like, well, how does that work? Does our RSS feed just go out to
It's just
anyone?
out there,
Like
and then anyone can sell it.
Yeah.
Basically, our podcast is the equivalent of like items you might find in your local store. Where clearly like somebody's opened a shop in your neighborhood and they're just going down to the local Woolies or Coles or whatever and buying whatever items and then like bringing back things that say not for separate resale and selling them separately. One of those. That's what our podcast is. You just find it on a shelf in a dodgy corner store.
There's a kid at my high school who I remember, he was so smart. He would go past Safeway every morning and buy, you get like a dozen cinnamon ring donuts.
I do.
And I think it was $2.50 or something for like 12 donuts. But then he would come to school and sell them for 50 cents or $1 each, which it was weird out of context. When you see like a donut for 50 cents, you're like, that's a fucking bargain. I'll pay 50 cents for a donut. But you don't realize that guy bloody just bought all of them at $2.50, mate. You could have saved yourself by going, if you'd just gone to Coles like he'd done, you could have saved yourself all that money.
Your mind's going to be blown when I run you through the Amazon business model, Charlie. Oh man, I love the idea. Can I say this? I do love the idea that you have become friends with your neighbors, even though that your neighbors have moved away. And this story, the bonds that were forged in you going over to their house and stealing their dog.
Liberating.
Reminded me of a story I read this morning. This is quite serious, so like I don't know how funny this will be, but I'm really interested in your opinion on this. So I read this story this morning about a guy who he'd had a pretty rough life, you know, like grew up, kind of fell into, you know, gangs, or not even gangs, but just like, you know, I think it was in the UK, might have been an English guy, I think, or Scottish guy, and you know, drugs, fighting on the weekend, you know, with his mates, that sort of thing. And anyway, punched somebody. Yeah, he'd been at the cricket. It was in England. So this guy had been at the cricket, and him and his mates just got in a fight with some guys at the pub because they'd like to fight. He's punched this guy once. He's fallen over. He's hit his head, and he's ended up dying. And the story is about this guy who like went to prison for it for a little while, and then eventually has come out and turned around his life, and you know, been telling this story. And you know, he has a very successful podcast which was about this story, and he's written a book that is about this story. But at the heart of this story is the idea that the parents of the guy that he killed, you know, with his punch, you know, eventually forgave him. Well, you know, as much as you can forgive someone in that situation, and formed a bond with him, and, you know, supported him through, you know, turning his life around and studying and having his own family now and these sort of things. So how, I mean, look, you know, I mean, let's keep this very hypothetical. I won't even make it about your life in any way. But how do you think you would go in that situation? Like when you hear that story, it was quite an interesting story and he was even wrestling with the idea of going, because I've written this book and like, you know, I've been given some money for this book, and they have an issue with the fact that I've made some money out of the fact that, like, you know, and he said, I understand that. And, you know, like it's a very difficult area, but I found it quite a fascinating story. Do you think you would have the power of forgiveness in that scenario?
I think so. I'm trying to. When my father died, there was potential malpractice involved, because you know, he went in for a routine procedure that they had to abort because one of the nurses or the, you know, the doctor's assistant put the tube down his throat incorrectly. And it led to a puncturing of his lung, and so he caught pneumonia and stuff like that. And so I do remember, you know, at some point, like friends who are lawyers talking to mum and saying, "You've got a pretty strong case for malpractice here, and you know, do you want to pursue it?" And you know, they're saying it wasn't going to be easy. Like hospitals are pretty well armored for, and I remember sort of mum sort of making this decision of like, well, what will this achieve? Like, it's going to be protracted, and you know, it's obviously becomes a different argument now because you're talking about, you know, money, and lawyers have their agenda and vested interest, and I don't know if this makes me feel any better about losing my husband, you know. And I remember there was sort of sections of our family who were really angry and wanted revenge or some kind of like justice and stuff, but I think I more identified with where mum was coming from, which was like, this is a horrible, unfortunate incident, and I don't want to drag this out or use my anger to power this pursuit, because just say, you know, we'd won some money or something, like he's still gone, and you know, maybe the money helps pay the mortgage or, you know, puts me through school or whatever, but I don't think it actually addresses the issue. It's kind of like that argument around the death penalty. You know, like someone commits a horrible crime against you. Like, is that punishing that person by death? What is that doing for you? So
Which
yeah,
is an argument that I
potentially
find pretty easy to have in an intellectual sense, except when Amy brings it up and says, like, if somebody murdered me, wouldn't you want them to have the death penalty? I'm just like, well, I know there's no good way for me to get out of this conversation now, because
yeah.
for you, I meant to say yes, but I guess you won't be around. So technically, I'll probably be more forgiving.
I mean, who knows? Like, I've never, you know, knock on wood, never been in a situation where something has been so egregious as that. Maybe, like, it sounds like this, you know, coward punch or whatever it was. Like, I guess it's all about context, right? Circumstance. That sounds like it was not premeditated.
No, he didn't intend to.
You know, it was an accident.
He intended to punch him. He didn't intend to kill him.
And it's also like, think about when we were teenagers, like boys fight. Like it's an unfortunate reality that you go to parties and pubs or whatever and you see guys punching on, and one mistimed punch or a guy hits his head or whatever, it could all end badly. And I wasn't a fighter, but I had friends who loved fighting, and I don't think any of them went out with the intention of killing anyone. And they're sort of young men, so yeah, I don't know. It's a complex hypothetical, but I would hope in my heart that I would be able to find a more constructive way forward. Like, yeah, I guess it depends on
Yeah,
the
it's
circumstances.
interesting. It's a very
It is
yeah,
interesting.
It's
Do you ever have revenge fantasies?
No.
Like, not necessarily
No.
about violence, but
None.
like even like fuck the people who doubted me, fuck the people who fired me, fuck the people, like,
I mean,
is it a strong
would-
motivator? I know lots of people where it is like,
maybe at
their entire careers are built around the fact that they were bullied in high
yeah.
school.
I mean,
it's like
maybe early on there was a bit of like, fuck you, I'll show you or whatever, but not for a very long time. And I am very much of the look, if you're out for revenge, dig two graves sort of philosophy, which is like,
yeah.
just who cares? Like I would much
Mm.
prefer a wrong be done to me than me do a wrong to somebody else. Like, I don't know if you're the same,
Yeah.
but if that's my scenario, like I think I might have told you about this. I can't remember if I mentioned this on the show or not, actually, because it was somebody that I like, a friend of mine, who sent me a text message that was not designed to be sent to me. It was a text message about me that they were sending to somebody else.
Oh no.
And it was
it Alex Williams? Because he's done that to me as well. He made fun of my accent, my American accent. So thought it was no good.
And it was one of those scenarios where, like, I was more amused than hurt by the idea that, like, because I understand that we all live in a world that you can love somebody and talk shit behind their back or have fun at their expense. In fact, often it's the people I love the most that you can do that about. But it's still like I prefer it to happen behind my back. I don't want to. I don't necessarily want to hear about it or get a random text about it. But I've got to say, because I didn't really share it with many people because I didn't want to also embarrass this person who had sent it, by kind of saying it's going, look what this person sent to me. But I shared it with a couple of close people just because you've got to in that scenario. And a couple of them were like, oh my God, you should really like be upset about that. And I'm like, my overwhelming feeling was, I'm glad it was them sending it to me and not me in the same scenario.
Yeah.
Like, if I was them, I know how bad I would feel about the fact that had happened. That was enough. I did not need to pile anything on in that scenario. I would hope that if I was ever in that same situation, the person who received that would hopefully take it in the spirit that I took it.
Yeah, I think that sometimes, to my own detriment, I will see the other side of the story. Like, I think it frustrates Jem, probably like Amy actually as well, that when Jem feels affronted or hard done by, that I will take the approach of, okay, well, let's, break this down and, work out what's going on here, and like I'll intellectualize it and try and, because that was just the way my mum was, like, and that's the way I was raised is, mum was, I think it was a lot to do with her having been through so much trauma with losing a child and losing a husband and her mum all within the space of a 10-year period. She just got to a point where she didn't have the emotional resilience to just flare up at everything. She created an armor around her that she would just try and process things through like an intellectual and then try and break them down. And that was her coping mechanism for good or ill. But I think that a lot of that has sort of flown on to me where, when Jem feels like someone has fucked her over or she's affronted by something, I'm always like, well, let's sort of, not that I'm defending the person, but I'm just like, let's not put energy into fucking hating that person. Just ignore it. Like it's similar to the listener thing. It's like, I get that you don't fucking like that we've moved, but just don't tell us. We don't need to know. But
yeah, talk shit behind our
said
backs. Fine. But behind our backs, guys.
Yeah. But then having said that, there are people who I feel affronted by or, that I hold grudges against that I often have to like counsel myself about. Like, I guess it's people who trigger my insecurities or whatever. I feel intimidated by them, or I feel judged by them, and it's generally people who don't say a lot. I start inserting like a monologue or a narrative into
So
them. It's
you're
like they're
not
not
even being
talking
judged by them. You're being judged by you. Yeah.
by me. Yeah. I'm creating the narrative around it, but it is interesting that I'm off because often have this thing too where I'll meet someone over, say, like, the first 6 months that I've known them, I'm like, fuck that person, fuck that. And then I get to know them and I'm like, oh, I actually quite like
They've
this
been nice
person.
the whole time.
I've
I've been
misunderstood.
terrible.
Yeah. Yeah. I've just misunderstood the way they interact. They just are someone who kind of, just because some people, like, there's a lot of people who are weirdos, especially in your profession. Like the amount of fucking comedians I've met who are like, wow, like on stage, you're so kind of like vivacious and friendly and articulate. And then you meet them, and it's like they can barely string a sentence together. And it's like, oh, wow. Like, all right, I'll just, admire you from afar. I won't try and get any kind of personal connection because I think that doesn't exist. I think, what I'm seeing up there is this artifice or whatever. But yeah, I definitely feel like for me, my defense mechanism is always like, let's see both sides of the story, or what's the full context of this situation. I have flown off the handle about stuff. Like there was a time where mum got ripped off by this con man, and I was so fucking angry and was like, let's track him down, let's call the police, let's do this. And mum was just like, it's fucking, they stole a bit of money. Like, I don't care. Like, in her mind, the reward for getting justice was not worth her mental the taxation on her mental health. She just was like, I don't care. I've been through enough shit.
I mean, even that idea of these overseas cons, like, it's terrible that they take advantage of vulnerable people. Like, that is absolutely terrible. And they do prey, most regularly on vulnerable people. But the chances are the scammers at the other end of the line are vulnerable people as well. They're living in like third world countries or places that, a lot of the time, these overseas scams are just a whole bunch of people in the equivalence of a call center who are being, employed on minimum wage to be, scamming these like wealthy foreigners in their mind. So there's victims. I mean, there's clearly like a syndicated crime network behind
don't blame
it, but like the actual people who are doing the scams are also
it's like that
people.
Baby formula shortage in America at the moment, and people are getting like arrested for stealing baby formula, and you're like, hang on, should we just not like think about this? Like, they're not stealing money or personal possessions. They're stealing a necessity to keep a child alive, and you want to arrest them
to
like,
keep their baby alive. These criminals. That's right. Let's
fuck
for
you.
the crime
Throw the
of
book at
wanting
them.
their baby to still be alive. Now, I think in that moment, surely you'd be like, but if I don't feed my baby, I'm in more trouble, right?
Yeah. All right. We'll get some mail to get through, just a little bit of correspondence. Before we do that, why don't we plug our Patreon? So patreon.com/TOFOP. That's our Patreon. You can go there. We're about to record a bonus episode every fortnight. We try and put up a bonus episode. Heaps of other great bonus content up there. If you like any of our shows, if you like FOFOP or TOFOP or Two Guys, One Cup, or even, old episodes of Philosophy, there's a huge back catalogue to go there, and you want to support us. That is the best way to do it. Like Adam Spencer, you can sign up at the top tier. But unlike Adam Spencer, we'll send you a poster. We've also got a podcast, Two Guys, One Cup, on the Listener app, exclusive to the Listener app. I know we've talked about it a lot, but it's actually doing great, and that's all because of you guys. And the more of you that come across and listen to it, the better it is for us. The more listener want to keep us on board, which means we can keep doing all the shows. It all goes into one giant funnel called TOFOP, just a big funnel that feeds back to tofop.com to make sure we can do all the shows.
Absolutely. And all James Fosdyke's original artwork, like comic strips, like there's so much great stuff if you're a fan of TOFOP and FOFOP. in particular, like, so much great art and extra bonus content if you go to the
full
and if
episodes,
you're a
full videos.
Philosophy, there's still a bunch of people who are on the Philosophy Patreon page, and I've had messages from people saying that they're just happy to stay there in the hope that it will come back at some stage, and they know that it all goes to TOFOP. But if you want to move over from the Philosophy page to the TOFOP page, it obviously unlocks all that bonus content.
And go to tofop.com to check out all our podcasts. Everything goes up each week. Who's on FOFOP this week, Will?
Recording it this afternoon. It is another HamoFop. Justin Hamilton.
Great.
Justin Hamilton will be back.
Fantastic. And before we get to the letters, you got any live shows to plug?
I do, actually. The final little run of my live shows is Brisbane this weekend. So when you're hearing this, hopefully, if you're hearing this in the week that it comes out, Thursday, Friday, Saturday night at the Brisbane Powerhouse, I am doing my award-winning show, Willogical. And then on Sunday night, the night after the election, I have 2 back-to-back What You Talking About Will shows, a 5 o'clock and a 7 o'clock. I've never done 2 of those improvised shows in a row. So that's going to be about nearly 3 hours on stage in a row of improvising the night after the election. So all I would say is, look, either way, I guess I'll have plenty to talk about that night, but I hope that I've got fun things to talk about rather than real sad things to talk about on the Sunday night. But come and see me in Brisbane. We are looking at Darwin and Canberra and some other places to come and do shows, but none of those are locked in at the moment.
And we always forget to plug it, but we have a YouTube channel, TOFOP TV on
and it's
YouTube.
Great.
It's great. And so every week we put up highlights from the show. Podcast Mike does a great job with that. And also, just a little plug for me as well, Dad Pod is coming back. I thought it was coming back on this week, May the 16th. I just checked my last email from Osher, but I can't see anything confirming that. That was the last discussion. Look, it's coming out at some point. We've actually been banking lots of, like the boys from Auntie Donna, Osher and I have been banking episodes. So I've got, I think, close to 14 episodes this new season. New format this year. With, I reckon the first 3 seasons, we're trying to work out what the show is. And what we kind of realized is that we are not the experts. We shouldn't be giving the advice. So the new format is working really well. We're just Osher and I talking about our experience as dads, and then we bring on an expert to explain what we're doing wrong. So it's been really good. So Dad Pod will come back soon. I'll publicize that on the socials. But let's get to some mail.
Can I just quickly mention Gruen Nation? We're doing 2 specials around the election. So one happened last week, so that is up on ABC iView, and the second of those specials will happen if you're listening to this on the day that it comes out. We'll be on air tonight, but otherwise you can catch it on ABC iView.
Oh, and so rough one more plug as well. I'm on 10 Questions with Adam Swar
nice.
a couple episodes ago. It's my second appearance on Adam's show. And then Adam came across and did FOFOP to talk about his book, 12 Summers, which is the previous episode to the HamoFop. All can be found at tofop.com. This is from Rachel. She says, hey guys, are you aware of the popularity of Aussie gold and opal hunters in the UK? We've got a channel here called DMAX, which shows hours upon hours of shows about Australians hunting for gold and opals. My dad, a 50-year-old British taxi driver, is completely obsessed, and we need to know, is it as popular as they've made it seem? Why are there so many of these shows? I know so much about this profession, and in true TOFOP fashion, it's completely useless information.
Firstly, D-Max sounds like could be a new member of the boy band Five. So if
yeah.
they're looking to add somebody to the roster. There is a channel in Australia called Seven Mate, and Seven Mate is predominantly these shows, like about men operating big machinery, either they be in in mines of some kind. I have never watched a single episode, but I've seen plenty of ads in between things that I am actually watching for these shows.
I am not aware of any of these shows. I'm not even sure if opal and gold hunting is particularly popular in Australia. It hasn't cut through to the mainstream. Let me just say that much.
I mean, I think that the mining industry is something that, obviously Australia's pretty famous for, Charlie. I don't know if you and I don't know. Opal mining is huge. But it mostly happens, I think, in Western Australia.
But these guys are amateur. Well, not amateur, but they're like independent opal and gold miners. It's not just hanging out with like Rio Tinto and shit, is it?
I mean, it kind of is, though, I think. Well, I don't know. It's the equivalent of ice road truckers or whatever.
Okay, so they're working for a big corporation. They're not
they're a crew.
I thought they were Indiana Joneses who were like going out.
I mean, maybe they are. Maybe they're independent opal. And I've never watched an episode. I'm only going on what I've seen in the ads.
Look, the answer is Australians, Australia as a country love mining, whether or
Yeah.
not like individual gold and opal miners are like, every second man. I do not know. I have
It's a
none in my
specific
immediate circle.
niche. I think
Yeah.
it's like one of those things like I can name all the guest judge on Top Chef because I've been watching Top Chef for 20 years. Like, so these people are celebrities to me. And I'm sure there's an equivalence in the sort of, antiques roadshow world, and there'd be an equivalence in the gold and opal hunters world, I imagine.
Yeah.
Like, in the same way as the Mythbusters or the what are those, the guys, the porn stars? It feels a bit like those shows, the porn stars, where they go around and they sort of find it's that
People with
sort of thing.
personality.
It's a crew.
Yeah. Okay, this is from Jai. Hey guys, have you listened to the new Kendrick song? It's really great, and I love the music video too. I want to hear your thoughts about it. Thanks, lads. I'm not very familiar with Kendrick, so do you want to take this?
So I downloaded the new album yesterday. I haven't had a chance to have a listen to the whole album yet, but Kendrick is touring in Australia, and it may well be. Oh, look, I've got plans to go to Splendor in the Grass, and I'm hoping that Splendor in the Grass happens. But Kendrick might be the first indoor concert that I have been to in a couple of years, because I have already put in my request to buy tickets to the Kendrick Lamar tour. So yeah, I'm super excited about it. I mean, I think he's the most interesting, kind of hip hop artist in the world, and I'm really fascinated by the fact that like some of the commentary around this album is like, oh, it's so dense and there's not enough bangers and all this sort of stuff, and I'm just like, awesome. It sounds exactly like what I'm looking for from Kendrick.
I mean, this is interesting. It sounds like Kendrick and Five will be in the country at the same time. And we know that Five are looking for a new rapper ever since Jay quit. Is there a chance we can get Kendrick Lamar into Five to do the raps?
Man, can you imagine? Hey guys, did you hear what Kendrick's done for his new album? He's joined the boy band Five.
Are there five of them? No, there's only four, but
there's four, but now one of them is Kendrick Lamar, and he's written. I like that Kendrick's rewritten, like he's written his own raps.
Okay,
like in place of
Jay's raps.
Kendrick's come in and he's kind of rewritten the raps, but the rest of the songs are completely the same.
They even when they do the name check, they haven't changed it from Jay to Kendrick. They just keep it as Jay.
They don't mention Kendrick.
K. You can change it to K. It sounds the same.
Oh, that's right. He comes in. Okay, he's changed his name to K. And he is now a member. He is now 1/5 of the 4/5 of the boy band Five.
Last bit of mail here. See if you can pick the right-hand turn this letter takes at some point. This is from Sebastian. Hey guys, a bit of a sappy email. Just wanted to say thank you for everything you've helped me through. I started listening to TOFOP when I was 14, despite the audio warnings at the beginning of every episode. No idea why I was listening to the podcast or at any podcast at that age. I should have been playing outside or something, but I did. Anyway, 4 years later, I've just turned 18. I'm about to graduate high school. Throughout some of my middle school and all of my high school, you guys have been with me every day of the week. You guys, through all the insane chaos that comes with growing up into an apparent adult, even though I don't feel like it, you guys have been constant in my life. Of all the mistakes I've made in the last 4 years, listening to you guys was not one of them. And I appreciate your constant love and support in my day-to-day life.
However,
soon I'm going to Iceland for college, and I'm absolutely terrified. Again, one of the biggest podcasts in Scandinavia, I believe. We are killing it. Weird crime dramas and TOFOP are the two biggest forms of entertainment in Scandinavian countries. Soon I'm going to Iceland for college, and I'm absolutely terrified of this huge change. But one thing I know, or at least I hope will not change, is having you guys with me all the way over there. So thank you so much. And I'm sorry if this email made you feel old at all. P.S. Do you have any tips on how to sneak weed, edibles, or medication onto a plane? It's a pretty big concern of mine, and I feel like you guys might have a few good or very bad ideas.
Okay, so here's what I would suggest: boogie board bag. What you need is a boogie board bag, because the one thing we all know about Iceland, great for boogie boarding. So, from what I know about Iceland, if your concern is how do I get weed to Iceland, in the same way as you don't need to bring flood water to Lismore at the moment, I think you'll be sorted. I think you'll be fine once you get to Iceland. They'll sort you out. If it's about sneaking it onto planes around Australia, I'm not sure that is something that we can
Endorse.
necessarily endorse.
Yeah, I mean, the good thing about weed is it tends to be in most countries, even Iceland. And, I mean, you're pretty close to Europe. I'm sure there's some shipments coming out from Amsterdam. You'll find it. You'll be fine.
Yeah,
You know what? Just get medically
it'll find
certified.
you. If you don't find it, it'll find you.
Hate me, put me in here. Love's going to bust me out or something. I don't know. That is TOFOP for this week. I'm Charlie Clausen.
Just give me 3 seconds, then I'm going to rock you. I'm relentless.
How long? Not long. Everyone relax. Fucking stupid.
This podcast is a TOFOP production.
Head to tofop.com for more.
Cool things for cool people.